After drawing your margin, the next step is define the insertion axis. Again, you can see on the bottom it's red, it has not been completed yet. So you're going to left click on define insertion axis. I'm going to center click and roll the ball down. And what this does is it now gives us the insertion axis for milling. So it's not the same as your axis that you drew or you set on the face bow earlier. You want to make sure you're able to see all the margins. And if you roll this too much, you can see the yellow. The yellow means you've created an undercut. So you want to try to get rid of your undercuts. And then you want to make sure that all your margins are visible from the next teeth. Once you have done that, you're now going to be able to go forward. Now remember, we have display objects and tools. They're always located on the right-hand side. If I click on display objects, most of the time I like to left-click on the display objects and put them on the top left-hand side of the screen. That's just my preference. The tools I leave on the right-hand side, and as you can see, the only tool here is reset. So if you wanted to reset the path of insertion, you didn't like it, you can click reset and it goes back to the original. Now I'm going to put this as the path of insertion. See, if I click on upper jaw, it turns the upper jaw on. And if I shut the lower jaw off, it's almost like it's transparent. So most of the time I don't turn on the opposite jaw, and I also make sure that this is totally opaque. Again, to change that, you can see as I slide the slider, it'll make the tissues and the restorations a little bit more translucent. So make sure you leave that at 100%. Okay, once you are satisfied that your path of insertion is correct, now this is again the milling path of insertion, I can go down to the bottom and hit OK. When we hit OK, it now also brings up preparation analysis. And for new users, this is not a bad thing to open. If I left click on preparation analysis, you're going to see that it has these analyzing tools. And with the parameters being set how they are, they're within 0.7 of a millimeter. That means you have to be at least 0.7 of a millimeter away from the opposing teeth. So let's see if we can go back, and I'm going to go to configuration, parameters, and then I'm going to do preparation analysis, and the tolerance we're going to turn up to 500 microns. And then we're going to hit OK. Then I'm going to exit configurations. And now you can see that this has changed. So from 1 to 2 millimeters away is in the blue. So this is adequately prepared, and it is a measure of, not reduction, of clearance. So I'm not real happy with that tool. We're also going to go to undercuts. And as you can see, we already knew there was a little bit of an undercut. And we can see undercuts on the buckle. And these are just a warning. As you can see, the measured value, which is below display objects on the bottom left side, that is 0.02 of a millimeter. And if I put it here, it's still 0.02 of a millimeter. Very, very tiny undercut. That's how sensitive this is. And remember that the machine ignores undercuts, so it won't attempt to mill that. If we click on the margin, what this is measuring is the first 1/2 millimeter. As you can see, here's a millimeter, or 0.5 millimeter of the tooth, and it's looking for any areas that the machine may have a slight issue trying to mill. And as you can see, if I go across here, there's an indentation. You see where it says measured indentation on the bottom left side again. Now, if this was anything that looked like it was critical and the machine would have a hard time milling this, this is your warning to go back, go to the acquisition window, cut this area out, smooth it off, and then rescan it. This will make sure that everything fits the way it should. The next one is surface, and the surface will show you concavities and sharp angles. If you see any orange, which on this one there doesn't happen to be any, but if you happen to see any orange, that's where you'd want to go back and make sure you trim and smooth this off, and then trim it and rescan. So that's your preparation analysis. And again, the analyzing tools, you can turn model contacts off, you can color the model on and off, and you can turn model box on. Now I normally will close this, and then the next time that this turns on, I'll also close display objects. So the next time I come to this screen, the only one that will turn on is tools. And I'll have distance, undercut, margins, and surface. Okay, at this point, we're going to go next and get into the design of the restoration. It's calculating the proposal. And once the proposal is calculated, we'll go in and explain all the tools to you.